should you get Indiana Jones The Great Circle? It is out tomorrow. It's been out all weekend for early access. I've been playing it. I'm about, I would imagine, halfway through, maybe a little bit more. I can't stop playing it. I absolutely love it. I wanted to make this video. This is not like a review, barely even an impressions video. I've just seen people asking on my comments and my Twitter, is this something I should play? What do you think? I know you're an indie fan. I love this game. I am unable to give you any kind of real unbiased take on this game because I have loved Indiana Jones since I encountered him in the theater in 1981. He and his movies and Spielberg's movies and Lucas and all that absolutely changed the course of my life. Just told me internally when I saw this, I want to go make stuff like that. I want to create stuff like that. And so I am unable to give you an unbiased take on this. What I can say is I've played pretty much every indie game. I've loved them all because they're indie, but I've been able to recognize most of the poor quality from the very beginning. Raiders of the Lost Ark game 2600, which I loved, which was pretty terrible, up to some really bad games like Staff of Kings, but I still played it and loved it because it was indie. And then there's been obviously some great ones like, The Last Crusade PC game and Fate of Atlantis. There was the Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom arcade game. So there have definitely been some great Indiana Jones games, but nothing like this. This really feels like an Indiana Jones movie that you are Indiana. It's not a cinematic action adventure at all. It is not like an Uncharted game. It's not like a Tomb Raider game. It is semi-open world. The acts are broken up into these sort of mini open worlds. They're big, but they're not like Grand Theft Auto big. A lot of freedom, lots of things to do off the main path. The main path is very clear. The main path is really fucking fun. There are traps. There are really cool payoffs to exploring. There are real, honest-to-goodness video game puzzles. It's not just pulling levers. It's not like super hardcore puzzly. But it's very, very cool to see LucasArts adventure game style puzzles, but done in modern day 3D gameplay. It's really neat. And it really is, people have been like, oh, I wish it was third person. I've always been thrilled it was first person from the minute I heard it, because this is not a game where you play Indiana Jones as a guy on a movie screen that you're watching and you're controlling. This is you in an Indiana Jones simulator. And good God, I mean, how many, growing up, I was always in an Indiana Jones simulator called my imagination in the backyard at school playing with my friends. I mean, this lets you do that. It's just excellent. Troy Baker, the guy who, if you don't know, who does Indy, the motion capture and the voice, is just fantastic he's basically doing a Harrison Ford Indiana Jones impersonation, but it's so well done, and it so gets the nuance, at least my perception of the nuance of the character, with little moves and asides, and there's this one scene here.
Yeah, overall.
Boss believes it to be here, Dr. Jones.
What is it?
A statue. Perhaps this big, cursed, terrible power, according to the old Egyptian legend.
It's been lost for thousands of years. No one's knowing where to look for.
So why does boss think that the idol is here in Giza?
Perhaps he thinks old Khufu had it.
Khufu built the Great Pyramid as his personal tomb. If he did have the idol, then
He would want to hide its power from the world.
Power of the stone.
And I'm not, it comes straight out of a movie.
I did it. I fed the snake.
Marvelous.
And to that point, even though it's a simulator, this game to me, it goes Raiders, Temple of Doom, and then The Great Circle, and then Last Crusade, in terms of great indie stories. That's how good, to me, this is. This is not one of the new ones that I really can't stand. I don't like the new Indiana Jones movies. I don't want to see Indy as an old man. I love Indy as Indy. This takes place right after Raiders. I just really can't say enough great things about it. Now, I don't know, again, if you don't have the affinity for the character, there's no way for me to answer that. I would ask somebody, if you're like, I've heard of Indiana Jones, but if I didn't grow up with him, or if I don't love the character or the movies, my answer is I don't know. It reminds me maybe of, I remember being in the E3 audience years ago, and they unveiled Rock Band, but with the Beatles. And a bunch of the older executives were losing their shit, because as kids, the Beatles were everything to them. And I could appreciate what the Beatles brought to music, and I liked some of their music, but I was never like, oh my god, it's the Beatles, right? So I'm the same with indie that they were with the Beatles, right? I have no clue. But what I can tell you is, if you're an Indiana Jones fan, this is one of the most enjoyable games in many, many years. And the best Indiana Jones game ever, easily. And it's better than the last two Indiana Jones movies. It's probably better than Last Crusade. This is what I wanted in every Raiders sequel that we never, ever got. It's fascinating how much the people who made this game get what makes indie, at least for fans. I get that Spielberg wanted to tell more family stories about fathers and sons and fathers and dads, or sons and dads, and all that with Last Crusade and with Mutt Williams and whatever it was, the Crystal Skull. But if you loved indie in Raiders and Temple of Doom, we haven't gotten him back, other than if you count a couple of novels and stuff, since '84. This is the indie that you loved if you loved Raiders and Temple of Doom. It's delightful, it's excellent, it is so good, and I highly recommend you play it if you're one of those people. If you don't have all those check boxes that I have, ask somebody else that hasn't really grown up with indie and loves indie, because I won't be able to give you an answer. But if you love indie, you're in for a fucking treat. Get it. It's delightful. It's excellent.